what's up. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, notification bell up above for future uploads, and check out the links posted in the description down below to support the channel. Thank you. So what I'm going to do is a review of Day Shift. I'm going to give you a spoiler-free review first in case you haven't seen it already and you don't want the spoilers. This is a fantastic movie. I really enjoyed it. From start to finish, I thought it was written very well. It was shot very well. The colours popped on the screen. The characters were all really likeable. And there was no agenda or anything like that within the movie. It was a very, very good movie to watch. And when you look at it then, you see it being directed by J.J. Perry, who has done an awesome job here in what is his directorial debut, from what I understand. He has been someone that's been a stunt coordinator on movies like John Wick. And when you see that Chad Stahelski is a producer on this movie, it's very easy to see the connections and just the simple movie that it is. And it's really enjoyable. The John Wick movies are very simple movies. They're very enjoyable with very likable characters and very likable actors then as well in those roles. And these guys clearly understand that when you have movies like this, you cast very attractive women and have them written very well, and everyone's happy. Every character within this movie is written very well, and all of them quite likable. I will say Snoop Dogg is kind of an odd casting decision. He does work in the movie. I think he does a good job, and I think there's a payoff then, I think, towards the end that maybe be something that could be explored in sequels going ahead. But to me as well, playing Snoop Dogg as a kind of cowboy character, it was kind of odd in a way. I suppose it was unexpected, because you might expect like a Kevin Costner or a Sam Elliott or someone like that, but to see Snoop Dogg with that type of role, it did fit. He was good in the role, but to me as well too, when you looked into his eyes at times, you were like, oh, I think this guy is here, or maybe he isn't. But anyway, that's my spoiler-free review of the movie. It's really, really good and very enjoyable. Okay, into the spoilers now. This is a movie that is written incredibly well, and it's very compact, and I think there's a lot of stuff that's written into the movie that have a lot of payoffs then throughout the movie, and then especially towards the end. So how does the movie start? The movie starts off, I'll just give you a brief description of what happens in it. Bud is played by Jamie Foxx, and he goes into a house, and he is a pool cleaning serviceman. That's what his estranged wife thinks he is, and that's what his daughter thinks he is, but he's not. He's actually a vampire hunter, so he's using the pool cleaning service as a cover for him being a vampire hunter. The idea of the movie is that when you extract the fangs of a vampire, if they're an old vampire and if they're a certain species of vampire, the higher money you will get for that as a result. The movie then moves on then insofar as a big dilemma is given to Bud very early on by his estranged wife, which is his wife has to move out of California because it's becoming too expensive. Kind of on the nose, that one, isn't it? You know, with what's going on currently at the moment. But the first shots that you see of her, it's played by Megan Good. She plays the character Jocelyn. They have her in what's called a pair of leggings here in Ireland. I suppose yoga pants you'd call them in America. And oh my god, this was one of the shots in the movie, I have to say, that immediately I was like, wow, I cannot believe they have a very attractive woman dressed like that in this movie. This is good. This is good to see. This is exactly the type of thing men want to see and men are paying for when they see these types of characters in these movies. But doubling back on what I want to say as well, is towards the start of the movie as well, we get introduced to Carla Souza's character called Audrey. Now, she is also a very attractive woman, so you're starting to see a trend here in this movie, which is they've cast very attractive women and very capable actresses in these roles that are also written very well in this movie, and they don't do silly things or anything like that. But what is described to us very early on and made very clear, you see, this is good writing, is that the Audrey character is a very powerful character. She's an older character, she's in charge of a gang, and she is buying up real estate, and she has a plan. And she's also then not a character that needs to shout and scream to get her point across. She's an old vampire, she's a strong vampire, and this is something that's made very clear to us very early on. And that's how you write a good female villain character. Not like the Reva character, say for example in the Star Wars Obi-Wan Kenobi TV series, that was written poorly and acted poorly. This is kind of shades, and as I keep saying to people as well, if you have Feora, say for example in Man of Steel, that is another brilliantly written female villain, because she is very much so in control of her emotions. She's cold, she's calculated, and she is super powered. So these are all things that make for a very good antagonist, I think. And again, it's very simple. So the movie starts off then with us being introduced to Audrey, having Bud's problems then been explained to us, and then he has to try and get back into the Union. So he meets then a character that's played by Peter Stormare, This is a guy that's been in Prison Break and loads of other things, and even in the John Wick movie as well. Also, and he plays a character called Troy, who is kind of this not unionized sort of pawn shop character. And again, written very well, and some of the banter between them very very good. And what ends up happening then to really set the character Sousa, her character, her Audrey character in this movie has been a real one to be contending with, is you've got this guy that owns this pawn shop with all this stuff around him, and she gets in lightning quick, and she does very nasty things to this guy. Again, doesn't need to scream or shout, very cold and calculated, and we witness her power on the screen. And then also, what is very good about this movie is it shows you a lot for sure in the fights, but what it does is it actually gives you the less is more thing with Audrey. We don't see what she does to the Troy character, but it's made clear by the repulsion on Bud's face as to what's gone on. So that is an excellent move, and it's an excellent piece of writing and an excellent piece of directing, I think, within this movie. So we move on from there, and basically the heat is on now on Jamie Foxx's Bud character. He re-enters the Union then at the behest and at the friendship sort of circle that he's found with this character then called Big John. So this is a character that's played by Snoop Dogg, and Snoop Dogg, again, as I said, is good in the movie, and he gets back into the Union. The idea is because the fangs are on the stock exchange index, it's worth less at the pawn shop, it's worth more if you're in the Union. So there's a bit of banter there is, and Eric Lang plays a character called Ralph. Very good, very well written, kind of would remind you of something like out of The Office or something like that, the way he's played it. Again, this movie is full of colourful characters, and indeed the shots in this movie are very colourful. The stunts and all are brilliant in this movie. I can't say enough about some of the driving sequences for this excellent movie. We then move on then, and he gets back into the Union, but he is told then he has to have basically a tag along in a character called Seth that's played by Dave Franco. This is great, and I think even it highlights earlier on then as well too, Jamie Foxx comes home from the initial hunt that he goes on, which we find out, and it pays off really well later on. There's an old lady, a house enters, takes out an old lady. The fight scene between him and the old lady is absolutely wonderful. It's choreographed so well. Every fight scene in this movie is choreographed really well and just hits the button. There's probably one fight scene I'd say was a little bit iffy, and that's the one that comes later on between Bud and the Heather character. That's a little bit iffy, I will say, because the Heather character, obviously, she's not the greatest technically or anything like that, and it just comes across really strange to me. But anyway, that's the one criticism I'd have on the movie. He goes in and he takes out this vampire, this old vampire, and then he leads a line of silver across the door for another vampire then to do as you know they will. As the movie progresses, we then meet two brothers, and these guys, I have to say, one is called Mike Nazarian, so that's this guy here, absolutely built, and then you've got Diran Nazarian, that's played by Scott Adkins. Now most people will know Scott Adkins from being in multiple different movies and doing stunts. The scene that happens with these four characters in particular is phenomenal. It's probably the highlight of the movie, and what happens is they go in, they think it's going to be a routine taking out vampires, earn a few quid. Bud is back on the stock exchange, on the unionized stock exchange, and he has the Dave Franco character following him around to make sure he's not out of order. This is basically the idea. He's shadowing him to make sure that he's not doing things he shouldn't be doing, because the stock exchange man doesn't like Bud for various violations that are made by the character before the movie starts. But this scene, they enter into the house, and when they enter the house, everything looks cool, they clean it off, and next of all they start listening to the walls, and they realise they're in a hive, and that is awesome to see. The scene that follows with all of the action in it, even particularly between these two guys here, like Jamie Foxx has done an excellent job in this movie, and these two guys were the standouts. There's a lot of people even now at this moment calling for a movie of the Nazarians, and it's very clearly made a comment about by Dave Franco's character Seth that these guys are like elite kind of celebrities within the vampire hunting world. And I think now, like, even the banter between him and the Bud character, Bud was asked him did he want a selfie with them or whatever, and Seth was like no, but you knew that he did. I think if these guys got a movie as well, that'd be great, because spin-offs as well for me are always welcome, especially when they're done by guys that have clear interest in action and indeed in what they are doing as a, I think, cathartic experience, which is you're seeing a good action movie now in opposition to what we've been seeing for the last number of years, which has been absolute dross. So it's excellent. Anytime someone that's involved with John Wick does a movie, I'm happy. So you get a fantastic scene with these guys, and then it moves on then, and Dave Franco's character Seth is like, why are these people all together? They're different species of vampires, they don't mix. There's something amiss here. So ultimately then we find out that Heather, who is a neighbour of Bud, which is a long time coming anyway, you knew this in this movie, how it was set up, she's actually a vampire also. She has been put into real estate by the Audrey character, and that's what Audrey is doing. She's putting vampires into different real estates, properties that she owns, so to just spread over California. Really excellent motivation, because then they're just going to keep going and going and going. This is where the movie then comes to near the climax at this stage, which is Audrey finds out, because they are able to use the likes of the powers of the vampire, which is sniffing, and they're able to understand that if there's black stuff particularly on the likes of blood or anything like that, once they don't rinse it off quick enough, these people are able to smell them and pick them up the air, and they're able to do it through the blood that's left on the glass there from the Bud and the old lady fight from earlier in the movie. So again, as at this point in time, I think most people probably can think that there's some sort of connection between Audrey and the old lady, but it's done very well, because then Audrey explains then when she's captured Jamie Foxx's Bud's family of Jocelyn and then his daughter Paige, when she captures them, she explains to him, hey, we've turned Seth that's over here, so he's going to wake up and he's going to sort you out, and then we're going to turn your daughter and we're going to turn her then against your mother there, Jocelyn. Why are they doing it? Well, she explains then, is because that the old lady that was taken out by Jamie Foxx's Bud at the start of the movie is actually her daughter. It was a character that she had moved to the United States of America, or perhaps even Mexico, and then made her way then, and had left her own daughter back wherever she was from, and by the time she returned, she was an old lady. So the reaction was to turn her, and that is the character that Jamie Foxx took out earlier on in the movie. It's very clever, and it ties up very nicely. It's not just randomized, and the motivations from these characters are very, very solid in my view. So Audrey's in there, and everything's looking bad it is now for the Bud character. So what they decide to do is they go out at night, and Seth makes it very clear to him. He says, look, you're going on a mission now that you're not going to come back from. And he's like, well, there's nothing else I can do. The family are going to go, and that's what I live for. Again, the motivations that are given to Bud earlier on in the movie still stay true. He doesn't decide to run away or save his own skin. And I mean, again, Megan Good is put into another outfit. Absolute dime piece, honest to God. She's put into a pair of jeans, she is, and then another shorts top, and you're just looking at it going, wow, incredible stuff. So anyway, that aside, yeah, moving on then, they go in and they attack this base of vampires. So this comes after Bud is after being introduced and is after having a small skirmish with Heather. Heather kind of wins easily, and it's a bit... It's if Bud was feeling threatened, like you're seeing earlier on in the movie, he's had to take people out, no problem, but he kind of has a bit of an issue with her. I don't know whether it's the way she's reacting to him, or maybe there is some sort of in-universe explanation that some vampires are good, but that's kind of left a little bit to the imagination, and maybe it'll be expanded upon later on. To me as well, it was to fit in a character that has been a vampire for a while, that was in the final fight scene, one of the final fight scenes, and that she's able to fight. The Dave Franco Seth character is new to it. I mean, he's been shown to wear his pants as well too earlier on in the movie, so he's not the most brave of individuals. So I get that they wanted to show a super powerful vampire on vampire fight. I get that. That's probably why it was there. But to me, that's room for exploration going forward as well too, you know, if they have a vampire colleague. So they get into Audrey's, basically this sort of temple, and we then see a number of, and again, I just want to give a big shout out to the contortionists that are in this movie. The contortionists that are in this movie that play vampires are wonderful. They are creepy. There's nothing creepier than seeing people being able to run around their hands and feet at the same time and they're attacking it. It is absolutely frightening. I have to be honest with you on that one. Looking at it, I was like, whoa. Now again, I wouldn't be someone to easily scare, but I was like, if I was in that situation at that time and I'm seeing someone running around like that, I'm going to be like, oh no, I'm getting out of here. But anyway, they move on and they get through, and the second in command to Audrey is there, and basically the Bud character is able to move on because Heather and Seth arrive, and Klaus just kind of lets him go past them. So I don't know, maybe that was a part of a script as well too, that they decided, all right, there's going to be a fight between these. It's actually quite an interesting fight as well too, the two vampires on one, especially this guy being sort of a head vampire, and the way they defeat him is something that's kind of shown earlier on as well too in the movie with Dave Franco's Seth character. It's a very gory stuff, but again, very interesting. So Jamie Foxx's bud moves down into the chamber, and this is where I think a lot of movies sometimes fall apart. They fall apart in the third act, and something silly happens, or like Paige or maybe Megan Good's character Jocelyn, they were going to do something and it was going to have a big effect, or maybe Heather was going to come and save the day. But it's not done like that. It's written incredibly smart. So the Audrey character is now attacking Bud, and she is very much so dominant in this fight. She's immortal. He's immortal. She is super quick. Like I'm talking about, he is moving and she's not even there. This is something he talks about with Seth earlier on in the movie. Again, things that they've already written and are following. She's already out of the spaces. He's trying to fire into spaces that she's going to be. Can't get her. Just cannot get to her. One thing that was really interesting, I thought as well too, was when she decides to get into the final fight, she actually stands down and breaks her high heels. I was like, whoa. It's like, that's an attention to detail as well too, I suppose, where you wouldn't be running very quickly in high heels, so you break the high heels and you're running down more flat shoes. I just looked at it and I was like, these guys know action all day long. Right, they're very smartly done. So anyway, Jamie's character Bud is beaten up a good bit. He's after getting a good beating. John is after helping him out there, the Snoop Dogg character, and he lets off kind of what seems to be like a light sort of explosion. Something similar, very, very much so to Blade. I don't think the MCU Blade is going to do very well, particularly when this is a much better movie, in my view. Audrey is whooping him. And Jamie Foxx's Bud gets to a point then where he's standing and he's just standing there and he's looking at her and she's charging at him. She is running at him and she's distracted before that, but she is running at him. And then next of all, boom, the payback comes, which is earlier on in the movie, as I said, Jamie Foxx's Bud, he sets up a trap for a vampire. He puts these two sticky things on each side of the wall and a silver line between them, and that is why he's caught Audrey with the same tactic. It is so clever and it's such a good payoff and payback then towards what happened earlier on. It's just awesome, and the Audrey character is done. Fascinating, and I have to say, it was just, again, it just shows then as well, you can write a male protagonist that's intelligent, that's resourceful, that's in trouble. And again, this is something that writers out there should be learning, that if there's someone that's considered weaker for whatever reason, they're able to use smarts and skills and then use the powerful one against themselves. Then it's so cleverly done. The movie wraps up then, everything is good. Bud is back in the Union. Seth is helping him out. It's not quite known then that Seth and Heather are vampires. They go away then, they're colleagues now, and there's a little bit of playful banter. And then at the end of the movie then, Snoop Dogg emerges from the sewer and all's good with him and he just moves off in. So it leaves itself open for a second movie and a third movie indeed. I want to just come back and say that there's a chase scene that's in this movie as well too, with some beautiful looking cars. I think it's fantastic, and that's how the Audrey character does it too, by the way. She threatens the Bud character, she threatens his wife, she threatens his daughter over the phone, and then she sends out familiars then to try and get him. I mean, again, clever character before everything comes down to a final fight, and Bud just escapes it each time. But the chase scene that happens with the familiars is fantastic, and the cars that are used, I have to be honest, I looked at the movie and I said, well, it'd be Chad Stahelski produced and J.J. Perry directed, or either Chad Stahelski directing it and producing it. These guys should be in charge of like the next Transformers movie. To me, they know how to do it. They know how to have good storylines. They know masculine energy. They know to cast a very attractive women, and they know to have a solid storyline that could progress into multiple things going forward. It's just so cleverly done, I have to say, and I really enjoyed the movie. I mean, the movie's a solid movie. And I know it's coming from Netflix, and people aren't a big fan of Netflix these days, and rightfully so, because Netflix have done and said and poured out some very, to say the very least, controversial things. That's to say the very least, by the way. And then they come out with a movie like this that's just an absolute banger. Like, I have to say, this is a movie that I think most people will probably watch like once a month or something like that. This could gather a cult following. I'm hoping it's a movie that's going to be produced later on into sequels. I think it's done very well. I think everyone does a really good job, and I'd like to see the same thing carrying on then for future movies if they decide to go with it. Jamie Foxx does a great job when he's hunting vampires here. I'm sure this is another highlight reel, I think, for Jamie Foxx towards going towards the Spawn movie, because that's another movie as well too that shares very similar traits, and I think it's really solidified Jamie Foxx as a character, and indeed a person that I quite like. And a lot of the movies, he doesn't seem to choose bad movies. From what I've seen from his catalogue, he does very, very well in what he chooses. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he does with Spawn, because I've seen him in action orientated movies before, but not quite like this. And I think now I'm all in on him now for being Spawn. I think he's going to do a great job as Spawn. I'm looking forward to that. So this is a great movie, I have to say. I'm very impressed with it. Like I said earlier on, there's the question around why he wasn't as aggressive with the Heather character, but I think that kind of plays itself off with the way her facial expressions are and the way she's speaking to him, and the way that it's not really an all-out brawl between those. But there are a number of characters that are in this. I mean, that's the Megan Good character in the final outfit. I mean, my lord. And then you have the Audrey character here then as well too. So this guy knows what he's doing in JJ Perry. Very happy to see this movie. Make sure you check it out. If you've already seen it, let me know what you thought about it in the comments down below. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell up above for future uploads. Check out the links posted in the description down below to support the channel. I'll talk to you later. Good luck.